Tonight, we're diving straight into the scandal that nobody saw coming but everybody is talking about. Picture this: two women who were once the definition of sisterhood, who stood by each other through marriages, betrayals, and the relentless storm of reality TV drama, suddenly facing off in a showdown so raw, so intense, it left the cameras shaking and the audience in utter disbelief. Yes, we're talking about none other than Yandy Rasheeda and Rasheeda Frost. Fans have always celebrated their friendship as unshakable. Yandy, the powerhouse boss lady from New York, and Rasheeda, the fierce entrepreneur rapper from Atlanta, were supposed to be the blueprint for loyalty in the reality TV universe. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming, and what happened next turned those cracks into a full-on earthquake. On-camera tensions erupted into a shocking face-off that left fans gasping, producers scrambling, and even their families caught in the crossfire. What started as a simple disagreement spiraled into a war of words so brutal, so personal, that fans are now asking, has this sisterhood been destroyed forever? Was it betrayal, jealousy, or something deeper that caused these two queens to clash? Stick around, because this story is about to unravel in ways you won't believe. The cameras were rolling, the lights were blazing, and the room was tense enough to slice with a knife. What was supposed to be another glamorous sit-down for the show quickly spiraled into one of the most jaw-dropping confrontations reality TV has seen in years. Yandy Rasheeda walked in with her signature confidence, rocking a sleek outfit that screamed boss energy, her eyes sharp and unreadable. Across the room sat Rasheeda Frost. At first glance, but her crossed arms and clipped answers made it clear that the storm brewing between them was about to explode. Fans have always speculated that reality TV friendships aren't as picture-perfect as they look on Instagram, but no one could have predicted this moment. Just months ago, Yandy and Rasheeda were side by side, cheering each other on, hosting events, and posting selfies that had fans writing comments like friendship goals and this is what sisterhood looks like. But beneath those smiles were whispers of tension, whispers that tonight turned into accusations shouted across a crowded set. It all started with Yandy throwing shade that seemed subtle at first. Some people, she said, adjusting her earrings while staring directly at Rasheeda, love to act like they're supportive, but behind closed doors, they're rooting for you to fail. Gasps shot through the room, and even the producers exchanged nervous glances. Rasheeda's eyes widened, and for a moment, it looked like she might brush it off. But the Georgia peach wasn't about to let anyone paint her as fake. Hold up, Rasheeda snapped, leaning forward with fire in her voice. If you got something to say about me, say it with your chest. Don't do that slick-talking mess, Yandy, not with me. The audience in the room froze. Yandy didn't back down, her tone dripping with cool disdain. Oh, I'll say it with my chest. You've been smiling in my face, but I've been hearing things, Rasheeda. I've been hearing you've been running around telling people my marriage is falling apart, that my business moves are shady, and that I ain't the woman I pretend to be on TV. Rasheeda shot up in her seat, her voice cutting like a blade. You out your mind if you think I've been talking down on you. Don't twist it. If I had something to say, I'd say it to your face. But let's be real, you've been feeling insecure ever since people started giving me props for handling my business. And you can't stand that spotlight shifting. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Friends, castmates, and crew members didn't know whether to intervene or let the cameras capture the chaos. What was supposed to be a reunion-style conversation had turned into a raw, unfiltered battle of egos. Yandy clapped her hands slowly, her eyes never leaving Rasheeda. Insecure me, sweetheart. I've built my empire from the ground up, and I didn't need to ride on nobody else's storyline to stay relevant. You think you're the only one with businesses? Please, don't forget who taught half of these women the game. Rasheeda scoffed, flipping her hair back with icy confidence. Girl, don't play yourself. Ain't nobody learned nothing from you that they couldn't Google. You love to act like you're the savior of the show, the one who holds everybody together, when really, you can't even keep your own family in check. That line was a dagger. Yandy's jaw tightened, and fans watching later would swear they saw her eyes welling up. The mention of her family, her struggles with Mendices, and the years she spent holding things down while he was away, those were wounds that cut deep. But Yandy wasn't about to crumble, not on camera. Say what you want about me, Yandy fired back, her voice trembling with controlled rage. But don't you ever come for my family? That's where I draw the line. Rasheeda, you want to talk business? Fine. You want to talk spotlight? Fine. But my kids, my husband, my household, that's off limits. The energy in the room was electric. Even Rasheeda's husband, Kirk, who had been leaning back quietly, finally shifted uncomfortably in his seat, sensing this was going too far. But Rasheeda wasn't done. If you didn't want your family in the conversation, you shouldn't have put them in the spotlight. Don't forget Yandy, this is reality TV. We all signed up for the mess. Don't start acting brand new now. The fans who later dissected every second of this confrontation on social media couldn't believe what they were hearing. Was Rasheeda crossing the line, or was she simply speaking a truth that nobody else dared to say? Twitter threads lit up with comments like Rasheeda's out of pocket, and Yandy had it coming, she always acting holier than thou. The confrontation wasn't just about hurt feelings. It was about pride, legacy, and the fear of being overshadowed. Yandy had long been praised as the blueprint for balancing family and business on reality TV, while Rasheeda had built her own empire with Frost Bistro and her music legacy. Both women were alpha in their own right, and the clash was inevitable. The shouting grew louder, emotions boiling over into accusations that shocked everyone in the room. Yandy accused Rasheeda of secretly blocking her from a business deal in Atlanta, claiming she'd been cut out of an opportunity because Rasheeda didn't want to share her shine. Rasheeda fired back, calling Yandy a manipulator who uses people for clout and then plays victim when it backfires. At one point, Erica Dixon tried to step in, holding up her hands and pleading, "Y'all, this ain't it. Don't let the producers win by turning y'all against each other." But neither Yandy nor Rasheeda was hearing it. They were too deep in the heat of battle, their voices echoing across the set like thunder. And just when it seemed like things couldn't escalate further, Rasheeda leaned forward, lowering her voice but sharpening her words into a blade. "You talk about loyalty, Yandy, but where were you when I needed you? When I was getting dragged through the mud about Kirk, when the whole world was clowning you, sat back and stayed quiet. Don't come at me now, pretending we sisters. You only show up when it benefits you." That was the breaking point. Yandy stood up, her hands trembling as she adjusted her blazer, her voice steady but cold as ice. "You know what? You're right. Maybe we were never sisters. Maybe I was just a convenience for you. But trust me on this, Rasheeda, when I walk away, you'll remember who always had your back, even when you didn't deserve it." The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of rage, every tear threatening to fall, every jaw clenched so tight it could break teeth. Castmates were whispering to each other, unsure whether to step in or let the moment ride. The producers, they were eating it up, knowing this confrontation was pure gold for ratings, and in that heavy silence that followed, as the echoes of Yandy's words lingered, everyone knew this wasn't just a fight. This was the unraveling of a friendship that fans thought would last forever. The question on everyone's mind was simple but haunting. Could this relationship ever be repaired, or had the cameras just captured the death of a sisterhood in real time? The silence after Yandy's declaration was suffocating. Nobody moved, nobody dared to breathe too loudly. It was as if the entire set had frozen in time, waiting for Rasheeda's next move. Her eyes burned with fury, but her lips curled into a tight, defiant smile. That smile alone spoke volumes, the kind that says, "You think you got the last word? Watch me." Slowly, Rasheeda stood up too, meeting Yandy eye to eye, their energy clashing like two storms colliding. "You want to talk about who had whose back?" Rasheeda said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Let's not forget, Yandy, when the streets were talking about your so-called perfect marriage, when everybody was whispering that Mendices wasn't really riding for you the way you were riding for him, I defended you. I shut it down. Even when I wasn't sure myself, I stood up for you. So don't you dare rewrite history like I've been some kind of fake friend." Yandy shook her head, her voice low, dangerous, like a fuse just before it hits the bomb. "That's real funny, Rasheeda, because I remember those whispers, too, and I also remember who was feeding them." Gasps rippled through the room. Even the makeup artist in the corner dropped her brush. Rasheeda's jaw tightened, and her hand instinctively went to her hip like she was bracing herself for impact. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm calling you exactly what you are," Yandy snapped, her voice rising with every word. "A woman who smiles in your face, but when the lights go out, she's gossiping to anyone who'll listen. And I don't care how long we've known each other. Loyalty means more to me than longevity. If you can't be loyal, you can't be in my circle." The tension was unbearable. Kirk cleared his throat as if to say something, but Rasheeda shot him a glare so cold he sank back into silence. She wasn't about to let her husband speak for her in this battle. Not tonight. "You want to play the loyalty card?" Rasheeda said, stepping closer, Then let's talk loyalty. Where was your loyalty when I was drowning, Yandy? Where were you when I was crying my eyes out, humiliated, watching my marriage crumble on national TV? Oh right, you were too busy, making sure your own storyline looked clean and polished. Don't act like you're the poster child for friendship, because sis, your receipts are empty. Fans watching this scene later would swear they saw something shift in Yandy's expression, a flicker of pain mixed with rage. She clenched her fists at her sides, struggling to keep her voice steady. You don't know half of what I was going through during those times. You think I wasn't fighting my own battles? You think I didn't have nights where I couldn't sleep, mornings where I didn't even want to get out of bed? But I kept pushing. I kept showing up, not just for me but for everyone who counted on me. You call that selfish? Maybe you couldn't recognize it because you were too busy playing the victim in your own story. That line hit Rasheeda like a slap in the face. Her nostrils flared, and for a moment, it looked like she might physically lunge at Yandy. Erica, Dixon and Carly Red both instinctively leaned forward, ready to break it up if it came to blows. The producers were practically salivating, but even they knew a physical fight between these two icons could push things too far. You crossed the line, Yandy, Rasheeda said through clenched teeth. Victim, that's what you think of me, a victim? Nah, baby, I'm a survivor. I took every insult, every headline, every dagger in my back, and I turned it into fuel. And if you can't respect that, then you don't respect me. Yandy's eyes softened for just a split second, but the moment was fleeting. She tilted her chin upward, regaining her armor. Respect is earned, not demanded. And right now, Rasheeda, you're showing me you don't deserve mine. The crowd of castmates around them murmured in disbelief. Some were shaking their heads, others were whispering frantically, trying to process the fallout they were witnessing. Social media later blew up with fans arguing over who was right and who was wrong. Some sided with Yandy, saying Rasheeda had gone too far by bringing family into it. Others sided with Rasheeda, pointing out that Yandy's cold dismissal of her pain was cruel and heartless. But the bombshells weren't done dropping. Rasheeda crossed her arms again, her eyes narrowing as if she'd just decided to unleash something she'd been holding back for years. Since we're airing it out, let's really air it out. Yandy, how about you tell everybody about that deal you tried to snake me out of? Yeah, I know about it. You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did. You tried to partner with a brand we both were in talks with and cut me out completely, just so you could have the shine all to yourself. The room erupted, gasps, shouts, and whispers filled the air. Yandy froze for half a second, her composure slipping as she tried to process the accusation. Then she scoffed, shaking her head with a bitter laugh. Wow, so now you're making up stories to play the martyr. I never snaked you out of anything. That brand came to me because they saw my value, period. Don't get mad at me because you couldn't close the deal. That's a lie and you know it. Rasheeda fired back. They came to both of us, and instead of riding together like we always said we would, you went behind my back. You can dress it up however you want, but the truth is, you chose greed over friendship. Yandy's voice trembled with fury. Don't ever question my integrity, Rasheeda. I've worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let anyone smear my name like that. You're mad because you think I owe you something, when really you can't handle the fact that maybe, just maybe, you can't outshine me. The insult hung heavy in the air, sharper than any knife. Rasheeda's face twisted with rage, her voice breaking as she shouted, Outshine you? Girl, please. I don't need to outshine anybody. My shine is mine, and it's been glowing long before you ever stepped into the picture. You're the one chasing clout, chasing validation, chasing headlines. That ain't me. At that moment, the tension reached a breaking point. Erica finally stood up, waving her hands frantically. Enough, y'all don't see what's happening. This is exactly what they want. They want to tear y'all apart, to turn this into some spectacle while they cash the checks. And y'all are letting them win. But her words were drowned out as Yandy and Rasheeda continued to shout over each other, their voices colliding in a storm of accusations and betrayals. The cameras captured every word, every tear, every flash of anger, and then, suddenly, Rasheeda dropped the line that made everyone gasp so loudly the microphones picked it up clear as day. You ain't no real friend, Yandy. You never were. You're just a woman who knows how to play the role until the cameras stop rolling. The weight of those words slammed into Yandy like a freight train. Her face went blank, her voice low, almost trembling as she whispered, You really believe that? Rasheeda didn't flinch. I know that. the air turned ice cold. Even the producers shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd just witnessed a fracture that might never be repaired. Yandy's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her voice trembling, as she replied, "Then I guess there's nothing left to say." She turned on her heel and started walking away, leaving the room in stunned silence. Rasheeda stood tall, but for the first time, her hands shook at her sides. The war wasn't over, but the first casualty had just been claimed. The sound of Yandy's heels clicking against the floor as she stormed out echoed like gunshots in the tense silence she left behind. Every step she took was heavy with finality, a declaration that she was done at least for now. The cameras followed her down the hallway, capturing her, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand, muttering under her breath, after everything I did for her." It wasn't just a walkout. It was the kind of moment that would replay endlessly on social media. The clip fans would dissect frame by frame, looking for every hint of emotion. Back in the main room, Rasheeda stood frozen. Her body was rigid, but her face betrayed something more complicated than anger. Yes, she was furious, but beneath that fire, there was hurt. Her voice cracked as she finally spoke, not to anyone in particular, but almost to herself. "She really walked out on me. Just like that, just like that." The others shifted uneasily. Erica glanced at Carly, whispering, "This ain't just TV anymore. This is real. They might never come back from this." Kirk rubbed his forehead, exhaling slowly as though he already regretted staying silent during the entire blow-up. He wanted to step in, but he knew if he had, Rasheeda would have turned her fury on him too. So instead, he just muttered, "This is bad, real bad." The producers quickly huddled in a corner, debating whether to follow Yandy with cameras or keep the focus on Rasheeda. In the end, they decided to split crews, half trailing Yandy outside, the other half staying glued to Rasheeda, who had sunk into her chair, crossing her arms like a shield. Outside, Yandy paced back and forth near the trailers, her voice trembling as she vented to one of the producers. "She had the nerve to question my loyalty, to question me, after all the nights I prayed for her, checked in on her, supported her when the world was laughing at her. And now she wanna stand there and act like I'm some kind of fake." She shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Nah, I can't do this. Not with her, not anymore." Meanwhile, inside, Rasheeda's voice carried the weight of betrayal. She looked at Erica and Carly, her words sharp but tinged with heartbreak. "I can't believe she said that to me. Me, after all these years. Like I ain't been nothing but real with her. Like I ain't defended her when people were dragging her name. She straight up acted like our friendship was just for TV." Her voice cracked, and for a fleeting second, her vulnerability broke through the wall of anger. "That hurts. I don't care what nobody says. That hurts." Carly tried to comfort her, leaning in. Maybe she just needed a minute to cool down. "You know Yandy, she reacts fast. But when she calms down, she might see this different." But Rasheeda shook her head, her voice low and resolute. "No, she meant what she said. I saw it in her eyes. That wasn't no heat of the moment slip. That was how she really feels. And once somebody shows you that, you can't unsee it." The scene cut between the two women, each in different corners of the set, both spiraling in their own emotions. Yandy sat on a folding chair outside, her face in her hands, whispering, "Why does it always gotta be like this? Why can't women in this industry just have each other's backs without all the extra?" Inside, Rasheeda was muttering, "She always gotta play the victim. Always gotta act like she the only one carrying weight on her shoulders." As the hours dragged on, tensions didn't cool, they hardened. Word of the argument spread among the crew and cast like wildfire. By the time Yandy returned, the atmosphere was thick with unease. Every eye followed her as she re-entered the room, her chin high, her emotions buried behind an icy mask. Rasheeda didn't even look up, choosing instead to scroll through her phone as if Yandy didn't exist. The producers knew this silence was almost worse than the shouting. Finally, one of the showrunners stepped forward. "Ladies, look, we don't want this to get uglier than it already is. But the truth is, the viewers are gonna see what happened, and they're gonna have questions. If y'all don't address it, the narrative is gonna spin out of control." Yandy scoffed, "Let it spin. I don't care anymore. I'm not about to sit here and beg somebody to see my worth when they already decided I ain't nothing to them." Rasheeda finally looked up, her glare like daggers. "You ain't gotta beg me for nothing, Yandy, don't get it twisted. I never asked you to prove yourself. But if you're gonna sit here and act like you've been some kind of saint, then yeah, I'm gonna call you out." Yandy shot back, her voice rising. And you think you've been perfect. You think you've never hurt me. You think I forgot the times you laughed at my pain behind my back, the times you chose to sit quiet when people dragged me through the mud. Loyalty is more than words, Rasheeda, and you failed me, too. The room felt like it was holding its breath. It was no longer about petty shade or business deals. This was years of buried resentment exploding to the surface. Erica looked on with tears in her eyes, whispering, "They really tearing each other apart." But just when it seemed like they were at another breaking point, Rasheeda dropped another revelation that made jaws hit the floor. "You want to talk about loyalty? Then explain this. Yandy, why? Did I hear from someone close to you that you were the one telling people my marriage was just for TV? That Kirk and I were only together to keep a storyline going?" "Yeah, I heard it, and don't try to deny it." The air froze solid. Yandy's eyes widened, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came out. The room buzzed with shocked whispers. Fans who later watched this moment couldn't stop replaying it. Did Yandy really say that? Had she actually fueled the same rumors that once nearly broke Rasheeda completely? Yandy finally found her voice, trembling but defiant. "That's a lie. I never said that. Not once. I would never disrespect your marriage like that, no matter what. Whoever told you that is trying to stir the pot." But Rasheeda wasn't buying it. "So they just made it up out of nowhere. Funny how the same words you just accused me of saying about your marriage are the exact ones I heard you saying about mine. That ain't no coincidence, Yandy." Yandy's face flushed with fury, her hands shaking as she pointed toward Rasheeda. "That's not me, Rasheeda. That's you projecting. You want to believe the worst about me because it's easier than admitting that maybe you've been jealous of me all along." "Jealous?" Rasheeda nearly laughed, but her voice cracked with emotion. "Girl, I got my own empire, my own life, my own family. What I gotta be jealous of? If anything, it's you that's been side-eyeing me every time I shine." The producers tried again to intervene, but the fight had spiraled beyond their control. This wasn't just TV anymore. This was the death rattle of a friendship fans once believed could withstand anything, and then came the most haunting moment of all. Rasheeda stood up, her voice breaking as she pointed toward Yandy. "You know what hurts the most? I loved you like a sister. I trusted you with my deepest pain. And if it's true, you said those things about me even once, then you weren't just my friend, you were my enemy in disguise." Yandy's face crumpled, and for the first time all night, she didn't fire back. She just whispered, "That's not true," before looking away, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. The entire room sat in stunned silence. Because whether Yandy had said those words or not, the damage was already done. The trust was shattered, the bond severed, and nothing would ever be the same. The room was heavy with silence, broken only by the soft hum of the cameras. Yandy's tears glistened under the studio lights as she wiped at her face, her hands trembling. She had never felt a pain quite like this, the kind that came from betrayal, not from an enemy, but from someone she considered family. Rasheeda, too, was shaking, though her armor of anger still held. Her fists were clenched, her chest rising and falling rapidly, the storm inside her raging silently. The weight of the confrontation hung between them, thick and suffocating, like a storm cloud ready to break at any second. Outside the room, the crew and producers whispered among themselves, glancing nervously at each other. Social media was already blowing up, and the cameras were capturing every moment of raw emotion. Erica and Carly tried desperately to step in, to mediate, but it was like trying to hold back a tidal wave with bare hands. These two women were too powerful, too passionate, and too entrenched in years of unresolved hurt to be calmed with gentle words. Finally, Yandy broke the silence, her voice low, almost fragile. "I trusted you, Rasheeda. I told you things I've never told anyone, shared struggles I've kept hidden for years, and now I don't know if that trust meant anything to you." Rasheeda's eyes softened for a fleeting second, a crack in her armor, but then her anger flared again, hotter than ever. "It meant something, Yandy, it did. But trust isn't a one-way street. You've said things, done things, behind my back. And that hurts worse than anything I could ever do to you." The tension escalated again, and just when it seemed like they might reach a tipping point, Kirk finally stood, his voice calm but firm. "Ladies, this has gone too far. Y'all are killing each other. And for what? For pride, for clout. You've been friends for years. Don't let all that history disappear over words that maybe shouldn't have been said at all." Yandy shook her head, tears streaming. "It's not that simple, Kirk. Once the words are out, Once the betrayal is felt, it changes everything. You can't just rewind the clock. Rasheeda, still shaking, whispered, I never wanted it to end like this. I didn't. But how do you fix something when both sides feel wronged? How do you trust someone again, after this? The cameras kept rolling, capturing every raw moment, every flicker of emotion. Fans would later dissect these seconds, noticing every subtle glance, every quiver in the voice, every tear that fell. It was television gold, but for Yandy and Rasheeda, it was heartbreak, captured in high definition. Then came the moment that no one expected. Yandy stepped closer, her voice firm but quiet, measured like a surgeon cutting through the tension. Rasheeda, maybe we can't go back to the way things were. Maybe trust has been broken, but I don't want to throw away everything we've built together over a fight that spiraled out of control. I need time. You need time. And maybe that's the only way we can find a way to breathe again. Rasheeda's eyes welled up, her jaw tight, her chest heaving. She nodded slowly, the weight of the fight pressing down on her. Time, yeah, maybe that's all we have right now. But understand this, Yandy F. We come back from this. It's gonna take more than words. It's gonna take real proof. Actions, not just apologies. The rest of the room exhaled collectively. Even Kirk let out a long, shaky breath. Erica Dixon put a hand on Rasheeda's shoulder, nodding. That's a start, she said softly. It's not perfect, but it's a start. The cameras cut between the two women, capturing their exhausted faces, their tear-streaked cheeks, their red-rimmed eyes. There was no celebrating, no relief, only the quiet understanding that things had changed forever. The bond that once seemed unbreakable was fractured, and while a reunion might be possible in the future, the raw emotions of this night would linger for years. And just when it seemed like the night couldn't get any more tense, another twist came. One of the producers stepped forward, lowering his voice so only the women could hear. Ladies, there's something you need to know. Some of the things that got leaked about both of you, they weren't all true. Some of it's being stirred by outside sources trying to make this worse. The narrative you just went through, half of it was manipulated before it even hit you. Yandy froze, blinking rapidly, the first hint of disbelief crossing her face. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, her anger momentarily replaced by suspicion. Manipulated? You mean someone else is playing us against each other? The producer nodded. Yes, some of the whispers, some of the stories you heard. They're being amplified for ratings, for clicks. Not everything you believed was true. For the first time all night, Yandy and Rasheeda looked at each other not with anger, but with uncertainty. Both were exhausted, both emotionally raw, and both wondering how much of the fight was truly theirs and how much had been fed to them by an outside force. Rasheeda's voice was barely audible. So, maybe we're not as much at fault as we thought. Yandy exhaled, letting some of her tension slip. Maybe, but it doesn't change what we felt in the moment. It doesn't erase the pain, Rasheeda. Yeah, Rasheeda agreed quietly. But it means, maybe we can rebuild. Carefully, slowly. The camera lingered on them, two women who had been through years of friendship, betrayal, love, and loyalty, now standing in the ruins of what once was. Their expressions were a mixture of exhaustion, sorrow, and the tiniest spark of hope, a hope that even after the most dramatic confrontation, some form of sisterhood could survive. As the night drew to a close, the crew wrapped up filming, but the tension didn't leave the room. Yandy and Rasheeda left separately, both lost in thought, both replaying the confrontation over and over in their minds. Fans watching later would debate endlessly who was right, who was wrong, and whether the friendship could survive. But one thing was certain: reality TV had captured a moment of raw, unfiltered emotion that would live on in social media clips, headlines, and fan discussions for years to come. And as the lights dimmed on the set, and the last camera was turned off, the story remained unresolved. The two women had faced off, voices raised, hearts exposed, and yet the question still hung in the air like smoke. Could Yandy and Rasheeda ever truly reconcile? Or was this the end of a friendship that millions once admired? The answer remained uncertain, leaving fans desperate for more, hungry for the next episode, and ready to witness the aftermath of a confrontation that no one could forget. What we just witnessed was more than a heated argument. It was the unraveling of a friendship that millions believed would last forever. Yandy and Rasheeda, two powerful, fiercely independent women, laid bare their deepest frustrations, insecurities, and grievances on camera, and the fallout is still echoing across social media. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family and friends caught in the middle were left divided, unsure how to mend what was broken. The truth is, this confrontation didn't just expose conflicts, it exposed the layers beneath them: loyalty, jealousy, love, and the pressure of living life in the public eye. Every accusation, every word shouted in anger, and every tear shed has left questions that may never have full answers. Can Yandy and Rasheeda find a way back to each other? Will the trust that was shattered ever be rebuilt? Or is this the dramatic ending of a friendship once celebrated as unbreakable? One thing is certain: fans are not letting this story die. The internet is buzzing, Twitter threads are overflowing, and every comment section is packed with debates, theories, and strong opinions. And now it's your turn. What do you think really happened behind the scenes? Who is truly in the right, and who let the friendship slip through their fingers? If you want to see more breaking drama like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment of reality TV madness. And don't just watch, join the conversation. Comment below with your take on Yandy and Rasheeda. Are they doomed forever, or is there hope for reconciliation? Your opinion matters, and we want to hear it, loud and clear. Stay tuned, because this story isn't over, and the next twist could hit faster than anyone expects.